All right, it's 5:30 p.m. and I will call to order the April 11th, 2016 meeting of the MISD Board of Trustees. Welcome everyone. If you would please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Where are the flags? Over there. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks again everyone for coming. We certainly enjoy our new meeting place here at Bowie Fine Arts Elementary School, and thank you for Bowie and the staff and the MISD staff who's make it possible. Went smooth last time. We're expecting a smooth evening tonight. Thank you. All right, as we always do, we try to start with a very positive thing and recognizing people that help us in this district. And tonight is no exception. Dr. Warren?
Okay, Tierney, where are you? Tierney, come down. Board, this is Mrs. Hamilton. She is our counselor at Lamar Elementary School, and she has a very important guest, Pastor Shepard. Come on down, please. Board, we are blessed by having a lot of campus support from a lot of different organizations on several different campuses, but we have a very special case in Lamar, and we wanted to recognize a church, and we wanted to recognize the leader of that church for what they do with Lamar Elementary. So, Tierney, please.
We have brought with us, we are so lucky and blessed to have had him to come to us at Lamar Elementary. In the middle of the school year, he just brought upon himself to come into our school and asked where he could step in and help our school with our families and whatever we needed. So immediately we were trying to come up with a list of things that we wanted to get started with programs this year. And within that first week, he had people signing up to be volunteers to do crosswalk duty, and they started that very next week as crosswalk duty guards. And we were very excited that we could stay inside with the kids and get them settled in the morning for breakfast time. And they've been going at it with the crosswalk duty ever since then. And I do have to say, Mr. Shepard took upon himself to help move one of our families in need. They had a tragic accident that happened to them, and the mother had no family or friends that lived here in town, and he took it upon himself to take care of that mom and those 4 kids during spring break because she was evicted from her home, and he found a storage shed to help put all of her belongings in and moved her and her family. I cannot tell you how thankful and blessed I am. I was already on vacation, and he was texting me, and we were talking back and forth about how we were going to be able to move that family into a safer place for her and her kiddos. And he did that all on his own. And he also rounded out the troops to put all of the storage stuff together for her and her family. They've also rounded up some teachers and some of our families that they can do the pancake breakfast for free on Saturday mornings at their church. And I can't tell you how many kids that have come up to me and said, the pancakes are so good. And even Dick this afternoon was telling us, y'all make it one Saturday and bring all of the teachers to have a pancake breakfast with us. Those are just a few of the things to mention that he has done, along with just counseling me on bad days. And we all are just thankful and blessed to have Scott Shepard and his family from One Hope Church of Christ help us out this year.
Very good. Scott, Mr. Davis is going to present you 2 awards. The first one is for the church, but one is for your leadership, so we appreciate everything you do. That's right. That's exactly right.
We also like to use this time to recognize award winners among our group. Dr. Ward?
And Mr. Jones, we have 3 very important award winners, members of our own family, and Mr. Jones is going to recognize them right now. And then we have a special presentation by one of them.
Yes, we do. Every year, the Midland Chamber, via their education committee, selects 3 individuals, outstanding educators in Midland, that exemplify what a teacher should be. We have 3 that we're recognizing tonight: our Unsung Hero of the Year, our Elementary Teacher of the Year, and our Secondary Teacher of the Year. We're going to start with our Unsung Hero of the Year, Jewel Claiborne. Jewel is one of our teachers from Crockett. She's one of our physical education teachers. Prior to the school year, each teacher was asked to write a goal for the year. Coach's goal was to change the culture of the school by promoting school pride, encouraging self-motivation, and celebrating the unique talents of each student. She is working extremely hard to achieve that mission, with many projects currently in place and more in development. The first step she took was to write a new school chant, which confirmed and solidified the greatness of each of the Crockett students, which we would like for you to conduct at the end of this introduction. Coach's dedication, hospitality, and helping hand reaches across the entire school as she strives to assist her coworkers in any way she can. Never without a smile, it is common to see students of all grades going to soak up her tough love and practical wisdom for greatness. Whether they go to her crying, angry, depressed, or confused, they always leave with a smile and the will to try again. The overwhelming response of the students and community is great simply because she supports the students and faculty both in and out of the school. Whether it is an orchestra concert or outside of school game, a musical for a fellow staff member, or a boxing match for students, Coach is there. Her fun, loving, and upbeat attitude attracts everyone to her for a charge of motivation. Coach is a beacon of positivity, and everyone is greeted with a bright good morning and left with a cheery have a great day. Regardless of who you are or how bad it looks, Coach is always there to remind you, you got this. Coach, let's hear the chant because you've got this.
Okay. We are the Crockett Cougars. You're gonna hear us roar. Now watch my sleigh. We solve our math equations. We write with punctuation. Yes, we are articulate. We're great, 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 great. C, courageous. O is for outstanding. Then there's U, uplifted. G, oh yes, we're gifted. A is for artistic. R is for respectful. And anytime we have a task, we're successful. Thank you so much.
Next, we would like to recognize our Elementary Teacher of the Year, Aaron Lloyd. Aaron Lloyd is a 4th grade reading and social studies teacher at Baskin. She is a teacher who exemplifies the qualities we look for in an outstanding and innovative educator. She is extremely knowledgeable in her field, passionate about teaching, and dedicated to meeting the needs of all of her students. Mrs. Lloyd is an inspiring leader in her classroom. She sees potential in each of her students. She has created an atmosphere where all her students are willing to take risks. In learning, she fosters a love of learning through a responsive, inquisitive attitude and embraces classroom strategies that teach her students to be critical thinkers and problem solvers. Mrs. Lloyd also serves as a member of the campus leadership team. She has an innate ability and willingness to work cooperatively with fellow professionals and share best practices. Her passion and love for students and learning are inspirational. She impacts our entire staff, impacts the entire staff with her positive spirit and enthusiasm. She is a true pioneer and a huge asset not only to our campus, but to students in MISD. And this was from her principal, Lena Baeza. Board members, I give you Aaron Lloyd.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We will not hold it against her that her spouse is Mike Lloyd at all.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we would like to recognize Molly Armijo, our secondary teacher of the year. Molly? Molly is an 8th grade math teacher at Goddard Junior High. She is a wonderful educator who has been in the profession for less than 3 years. However, when you see her in action, it is hard to believe her time as a teacher is so brief. Mrs. Armijo has many admirable attributes, but 2 things stand out the most. She is in a constant state of improving and progress, and she also builds positive relationships with her students. This amazing teacher truly values her profession and is never satisfied with her students being status quo. She is constantly evaluating the progress of her students and tweaking her teaching strategies to best reach them. She also has a servant heart and builds amazing relationships with her students. These relationships cause even the toughest junior high attitudes to buy into what she is selling in her math classroom. She oversees student Bible studies and often gives up lunchtime afternoons to help her students with math and with life problems. Selflessly, she attends students' games, performances, concerts, and celebrations. She knows that making an effort with her kids outside of the class speaks volumes to their effort in the class. Her young age makes relating to her students easy, and she is not afraid to make them laugh or look silly, not even herself, if it gets her point across. So we like to recognize Molly Armijo.
Thank you.
We're good. And let's have all 3 down here for a group shot too, please.
And there's more.
Mary, come on down, and we have a very special presentation.
We have Molly Wright with us, and Molly is with the American Heart Association, which raises money for heart research through Jump Rope for Heart and Hoops for Heart, and she wanted to present a very special award to some of our PE teachers.
I don't know why Mary doesn't talk. Why do I have to talk? I have the great pleasure of working with almost all of the kids in the Midland School District to teach them some really important things, not only to help us with raising money for heart research, but the most exciting thing is that we get to go in and start with the elementary kids and talk to them about things that they can start doing today to not only take care of their heart, to take it home and share that message with their family and friends. And one of the things that's exciting, I'm new to the Heart Association, but one of the things that I'm most proud of is that Midland School District participates 100% in their elementary schools, which is amazing to me, which makes them, they were number 15th in the state of Texas last year with raising money for Hoops for Heart and jump rope for heart. The other thing is most of the the middle schools, junior highs are participating this year. So to me, that's amazing. So when I got a call this year, and at the end of last year, and my corporate office said to me, you have a school that's done an amazing job and they're getting an award, we're going to send it to the school. And I said, absolutely not. I said, I want everyone to know what great mentors they have in the school district, and I want the town and the city to know that we have people out there that are great mentors to our kids. So I said, send it to my home, and I want to present it to them. So from Great House, which is an amazing school, I have Lisa Stevens, here, and Chris Jones, who were number 6 last year in the nation for jump rope and hoops for heart. So please, please give them a great round of applause because they are amazing.
Very much. We appreciate that. And Chris, we realize what you deal with at home too, so.
Now down to business. Item number 3, public forum. Mr. Garcia, is there anyone that's signed up to give us the benefit of their thoughts this evening? All right. We certainly have received them from informal sources, so we have the benefit of their input. If there's no one to come forward, we do have one. All right. All right, if you would please come forward. All right. Is it Dawn Spivey?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Spivey, welcome. Doesn't say what your topic is. If your topic concerns an agenda item tonight, we may ask you questions.
Okay.
If it does not concern a published agenda item this evening, we may ask you questions, but we can't have any discussion whatsoever about the topic because we have to post it for the public to know that we're going to discuss something like that. In any event, you have 3 minutes, which I hope is enough for you, but Mr. Hernandez will be the timekeeper.
What I would like to discuss, good evening, first of all, and thank you for hearing me out. I would like to discuss what's on agenda action item number F. I am a parent of children that attend Scarborough Elementary, and I know that right now that there is some discussion going on about shifting children from your borough to Scarborough to Travis, and I would like to know from the board, if you approve this move to move these children again after we just did a big move last year, will this be set in stone, or will you reevaluate it and do it again? So I guess I wanted to know, has the board made a decision on how often they're going to redraw the lines or the boundaries?
Well, I'll refer to Dr. Warren, but I can promise you that we hoped that the lines wouldn't change last year. It's all a function of student population and where people move. And if you can guarantee me where people are going to live next year and how many children they're going to have, we can set it in stone. But otherwise, we cannot, I'm afraid. But he'll give you the more detailed answer.
No, that's a very good explanation. Ms. Spivey, that's a great question. We went 22 years in between decisions for that. Our expectation is, and that's when we were talking about it, I don't know if you were able to attend any of the the community forums that we had last spring when we were talking about the redesign of the elementaries, what we said was we were gonna do our very best to get it right on the first time, even though we had not done it in 22 years. There are just a couple of areas that we still see some areas that we didn't draw it right. So if the board approves this tonight, nothing has been done yet, the board is going to consider tonight. If we do this tonight, our expectation is these will be set for the elementary schools for quite a while. Unless we, again, Dawn, unless we see unforeseen growth like we had, 2 or 3 years ago, and we have to add more campuses to our footprint, these should be, for the 27 elementary schools we have, these should be set, and we should be able to grow out the way we had, the way the demographers had analyzed that data and been able to do that, to make those decisions. So we do not want to do this again.
Okay, do I have time for one piggyback off that question? I have another question. My children attend Scarborough Elementary. When we vote, or whenever the panel votes on realigning these children, will we make sure that all schools stay within under the maximum maximum number?
Enrollment. That's exactly why we're doing this. That's a great question. Yeah, and a great comment. Yes, ma'am. That's what our goal is.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
For your time.
Good job.
All right, thank you. Ms. Spivey, thanks for coming forward. Anyone else for public forum this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll turn to agenda item number 4, district reports. The first one, 4A, internal district surveys. Survey report begins on page 5 of our packet. Board.
Team, Mrs. Kale will bring in, and Elise, please understand, Elise has done a lot of work with the company K-12 on this. At least since I have been here over this last 6 years, we have not done this and truly tried to ascertain internally where we were doing well at, what we were doing okay, what we were not, where we were not coming up to measures, and surveying our staff. The first part of the survey was surveying our staff on the service that central office was providing, our support crew at the central office. And so I think you're going to be very pleased by the results of this. Elise will take you through the PowerPoint, and then and then more importantly, at the end, she'll discuss on where do we go from here, because these are not just going to be paperweights. These are not going to be just filed. We're actually going to use this to improve our services moving forward. So Elise, please.
Thank you. Good evening. With the district survey that we had, we actually went through and categorized 17 departments that we wanted to look at, and within those 17 departments, we looked at how those departments, the customer service view was from responsiveness, courtesy, accuracy, flexibility. Those are the primary things that we looked at within each of those departments. Those 4 questions went across all 17 departments. Then some of the departments had their own questions that were also tagged into the survey to give a little more specificity for the departments for areas of celebration or need. We invited all the staff to participate via emails that were sent from the company, and then reminder emails also went from the company. I'm not going to go over the technical notes, but when we move to the executive summary, just a broad overview, you can see that technology, benefits, and professional development departments had the most interaction from the survey responses. 90% of our participants felt that the superintendent's office, payroll, accountability, benefits, police services, counseling, and student support services were usually or always in all 4 categories, at least 90%. So very, very good results from that end. When we look at the overall response rate, you can see that we sent out over 2,800 requests for participation. We had over 1,500 respond, which was a 54% response rate. The company said that they don't typically see that in the first year of a survey like this. So those are very positive results on our end. When you look at it, of the 1,500 responses, 82% were from instructional staff. Then when you're looking, you also have a breakdown of how the experience of the employees for the ones that responded. And you can see those that had more than 10 years were the most of the answers, and then those between 1 to 2 years and less than 1 year. Those both equaled 33% of our response rate. When we look at the four questions and what the range of responses was, that's what this next slide is. And you can see that we go from the superintendent's office down at the bottom with a 13% response rate. That was actually 199 employees responding to him as being interactive with the superintendent's office, which also includes his secretary and communications, up to 983 individuals responding toward technology in our iTech department. So you can see we had a pretty good range there. Now, you must also note that just because someone answered that they interacted with the superintendent's office, it doesn't mean they immediately also were included in the 983 with technology. It could change throughout. So the respondents actually picked which department they interacted with, and the survey popped up for those specific departments. So if you chose all 17, you answered the survey 17 times. When we look at responsiveness, you can see that the range was from 72% of everyone being always or usually satisfied with customer service up to 95% for responsiveness. Oops, clicked the wrong one, Mike. Thanks. When we look at courtesy, you can see that the range was from 82 to 97%. I think this is definitely something that I have highlighted with every department when I've met with them. This is, I guess, growing up in retail, this was always pounded into my head. So I think it's wonderful that we had such a positive response rate from that. I didn't clarify on the previous slide, you probably already figured it out, but the N, that's just the total number of respondents within that particular survey, portion of the survey. When we look at accuracy, in other words, departments are giving the correct information, you can see the range was from 79 to 95%. Again, pretty high positive responses. And then finally, when we look at flexibility, the range is from 72% to 94%. And this question was how flexible is that specific department in relation to the needs of my school or the needs of my classroom within those areas. I think a big plus when we look at each of these four areas is that the company, K-12 Insight, they do these surveys nationwide. And one thing that they said is based upon our results, there's really not anything that they could come in and provide as suggestions for us to improve based upon the results because they were so positive as far as from a customer service. So I thought that was an excellent thing for them to share with us. Of course, there's always room for improvement. So that's kind of what we did in the next step is we looked at what can we do as a district to follow up. We did not want to take these results and just have them sit on a shelf. So I hounded Dr. Warren and said we need to do something. And so I went out and I met with each one of these departments, with the leaders of those departments, and just explained to them what we wanted to do. Not that I wasn't coming across to them, I hope that I'm trying to tell them how to do their jobs, because I certainly do not know how to do that, but how can we improve their department to help the district overall improve. And so we looked at that. We looked at the different ways to handle survey results in case anybody had not participated in a survey before. Those departments that had specific questions, we looked at those questions and how they relate to them. And if we did this survey again in 2 or 3 years, we wanted to go ahead and note any changes that we wanted. And in case we forget in 2 or 3 years what we wanted to do, we'd already have that down. Then we looked at the basic results, and then additionally, each department got a view of their results, not only from everybody responding, but also from just the campus administration, which was principals and assistant principals. And some departments were exact same, some had some changes, but that was a good way to look at it. Then we also looked at how else would you like to see the data? And I got those responses from each of the departments that wanted a different view, and we are working on getting that information for them. For example, do you want to see what all elementary staff said versus all secondary staff? Then the most important thing is we looked at what action steps do we want to take next. We want to make sure that everybody celebrated the honors that we received from the survey, the positive results. We wanted to make sure that we looked at concerns that need to be addressed. And then what I did is I tried to look at it from an outsider and what suggestions I would provide a department just based upon the survey results and the anonymous written comments that were received. And then we talked about taking one or two items on the concern list and integrating those into the district improvement plan, which we start that process here this month, and integrate one or two performance objectives from each department within the district improvement plan to move toward improvement within the district. The next step is the campus climate surveys. We've already started those. They actually began last week. We are surveying all students in grades 3 through 5, and then a separate survey for all students in grades 6 through 12. Additionally, we are surveying all parents, and at this point we've had just under 1,500 parents participate. So that's something we'd like to get out is many more parents to participate in this to give information for their schools. And then we'd like, also campus staff has received the same survey for campus climate, and we've had a 34% of our staff, campus staff, have replied as of about 30 minutes ago on that survey. And you can see the issues that will be addressed through the campus surveys. And then based upon the results, I see us either going through the exact same process we went through the departments or whatever the survey results tell us to do.
Board, you know, you hear perceptions, you hear attitudes that school central offices can be distant, they can be unplugged from the campuses, and to the worst part, actually be detrimental and be barriers to getting things done. I was very pleased. I truly, when we got the results back, I was hoping, I told the staff, the executive team, I was hoping for maybe a 50% in a lot of those categories, of 50% positive responses. And for us to get, for every department to be over 70% of what our staff and having 1,500 respondents was phenomenal as well. So I need you to be very proud, be very pleased of your central office staff. They do a very good job every single day. They're trying to get better and they're trying to provide as much support. And I think what we're doing is very much appreciated from our staff and by the judge of this. And Elise said exactly right. Even though these results were very positive in light of the central office, we do have areas to improve in, and we are going to use this to improve all the way to the improvement plans, all the way down to the action items. So I'm very proud. We'll be sending a press release out about this first thing in the morning. Woodrow's already got that drawn up. And just again, I appreciate those folks from our executive directors, supervisors, all the folks in our central office and support teams who work so hard for our kids and our staff.
I'd like to say I appreciate it too, and I'm sure my fellow board members do. It's nice to have some official results for some informal things I have observed. When I was first on the school board, I had a lot of communication that was pretty negative. And since you've been here, Dr. Warren, hardly anybody stops me in the grocery store anymore or does some of the other things. So the fact that we don't hear complaints certainly reinforces what a good job everybody's doing. So thank you very much for that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Warren, and congratulations to all the departments and your administration, Dr. Warren, for doing an excellent job. We're not surprised by the results, but we're sure happy to see them. Thank you. All right, next is item 4B, the PBMAS quarterly update.
Board, to continue on the reports to you for our academic progress. Thank you, Mike. For our academic progress, Monica Hernandez is back with her PBMAS Roadshow, and she is continuing to do a great job leading us through this. So Monica, please.
Awesome. Good evening, board members. I'm here tonight to provide the PBMAS Quarter 3 update. Quarter 3 was relatively short. It encompassed February and March, and we did have that week off for spring break. So it was very fast-paced. It was a very fast-paced quarter. Each task force team has provided me with a brief.
You have a folder, and there's a hard copy there on your place.
Each task force team has provided me with a brief update on the progress made thus far with regard to their quarter 3 goals, and that is what you currently have in hand right now. They have also mentioned progress that they have made toward meeting their annual goals, so not only their quarterly goals, but their annual goals as well, and their upcoming plans for the last quarter, quarter 4. The district leadership team as a whole met on March 28th to review each task force team plan and also provide constructive feedback on implementation and next steps. For the status of the quarter 3 goals, the following is what the different task force teams have reported. For the bilingual and ESL task force teams, the quarter 3 goal was for there to be at least a 10-point increase of students meeting standard in each core subject area from the first 9-week district checkpoint to the most recent week district checkpoint. The ELL team has determined that the quarter 3 goal was not met as there was not a 10% increase in each of the core subject areas, but did note that progress had been made in some areas. For example, ELL reading scores increased by 6% and writing increased by 3%. Professional development targeting reading skills in early literacy and guided reading has been provided heavily this year. Social studies in general showed the least amount of growth. However, that is representative of the secondary scores only. Math scores saw a decline in passing percentages overall. When looking at the student level LEP data, it is those LEP students with advanced or advanced high proficiency language levels that are showing the most academic improvement and at a faster rate. LEP students with beginner or intermediate proficiency levels are showing minimal growth, but are performing consistent with their acquisition of English proficiency skills, as language acquisition tends to precede academic performance for these students. The ELL instructional coaches continue to provide ongoing teacher support for the implementation of the Lead Forward strategies. And currently, they are 5 bilingual coaches short due to teacher vacancies. So those 5 bilingual coaches are currently in the classrooms. The ELL department is currently preparing summer PD for teachers, and district support is currently being provided to campuses as they request them to meet campus-specific instructional needs. The Closing the Achievement Gap Task Force set their quarter 2 goal that 100% of identified students for mentoring will show evidence of progress on district checkpoints. Though that goal of 100% was not met, 76% of those students being mentored have increased their average score when comparing either their previous year STAR math scores or their first checkpoint from this year to the most recent 27-week math checkpoint. While reading actually saw a decline in scores from the first district checkpoint to the most recent district checkpoint, it is important to note that for both math and reading, the average score increased 11 points, both in math and in reading, when comparing the most recent 27-week district checkpoint to last year's STAR average percent correct. There are a few things that need to be taken into consideration when thinking about comparing previous year STAR results to district checkpoints. So first of all, STAR is comprehensive, very long. While district checkpoints tend to test the material that has recently been taught and tend to be very, very short. So there are some cautions that you need to take whenever you're comparing those two tests. So while the tests aren't necessarily comparable in nature, what we hope to see with students is an increase in their overall quintile performance. So to give you an example, we want to note that students in general are increasing their average percent scored. So if students typically tend to master 50% or 60% of content, what we hope to see is an average increase in what they are mastering on their test. Okay. To gain insight and input from teachers on the perceived impact of the mentoring program on their students' progress, during quarter 3, a teacher survey was developed and distributed by campus counselors to the teachers of those students that were being mentored. Teachers were asked to rate the level of academic improvement for this school year, as well as the behavioral and social improvement that they were seeing in their students. Based on a scale of 1 to 5, teachers gave both areas an average of a 3. Open-ended comments were also collected and have provided really great information for the task force team to use to further improve the program. Adjustments for quarter 4. At the very beginning of the school year, math progress measures were not available at that point in time. The task force initially set out their annual goal to measure progress in reading. After working with students during the year, many mentors have expressed the need for additional intensive foundational reading intervention. So our district's RTI team is really creating plans to address those issues. And so also, due to the motivational factor involved when mentoring students, the annual goal has been adjusted to really look at progress in reading or math. The graduation task force quarter 3 goal was to ensure that the identified potential dropouts are receiving appropriate support and interventions that will allow them to continue to progress on their road to graduation. Progress has been made on this goal as the response to intervention and at-risk coordinator met with principals or assistant principals at elementary campuses in either February or March and assisted administrators in utilizing the RTI Data Review Student Data Tracking Report to help campuses further identify students in need of intensive and targeted intervention plans to further close achievement gaps. At the high school level, collegiate coaches actively and meet regularly with students on their individual caseloads. With their students, they look at grades, attendance, and help the students understand how each one affects their credits and how their credits in turn affect their personal graduation plans. Counselors at the elementary campuses will soon be conducting fast-forward presentations. These are dropout prevention trainings with their 5th grade students. And after the training, the 5th graders will complete a short survey that will help provide counselors and the task force team with important information about how they can further help those 5th grade students before they go on to 6th grade and 7th grade beyond. And finally, I'm excited about this. The graduation task force team is going to be hosting a Road to Graduation parent night this upcoming Thursday. This parent night is going to be very, very targeted in who is invited. They have invited students at the freshman campuses that currently have less than 3 credits. In addition, what they have decided to do was extend that invitation to the collegiate coaches at the main high schools, and if collegiate coaches are wanting to invite parents that are on their caseload, they are doing so as well. Topics to be shared with parents during this meeting include credit recovery, attendance, STAR, and what is necessary for graduation. And also, David Coleman, the principal of Coleman High School, will also be sharing some information about potential options. With the graduation task force team, a campus-based task force member stepped into the leadership role during this quarter. And the team was able to move forward with their work. However, that work did come with some of the challenges that accompany any major transition. So in quarter 4, the team is going to review all of the goals that they have set forth and progress that they have made and determine what adjustments are needed for this upcoming quarter. The Special Education Task Force set a quarter 2 goal that special education students with instructional settings of 40 or 41 will have a 10% increased passing rate on district benchmarks. So very similar to what we saw in the ESL and bilingual task force team. It was determined that this goal was not met as reading, math, and science district checkpoint scores have stayed relatively flat, with reading having a slightly higher increase. The growth in reading could be due in part to the special education department focusing on supports that will help students better understand the content and increasing comprehension. For example, with the implementation of Firefly, along with the use of Lead Forward tools throughout the year, special education teachers and students have really gained some knowledge in how to actively monitor their present level of performances. Student data indicate that special education students receiving instruction within the instructional settings of 40 and 41 are performing better than their other special education student peers. In addition, resource teachers have been moved to a 4-day generalization of skills schedule with a 5th day to collaborate with teachers and students. This has allowed more collaboration to happen on campuses. 17 campuses are currently using the Firefly software consistently. The campuses that are showing limited use continue to have support from the district instructional specialist. And just a little note, quarter 4 runs April through June, and many of the tasks that are going to be occurring during this upcoming quarter really are going to be focused on evaluating those systems and those structures that have been put into place this past year to see what works, what has not worked, and making plans to change what has not worked for the upcoming school year. Adjustments and refinements will be made on data that we have received, and appropriate action steps will be taken to address any areas where progress has not been made. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. In reference to your immediate observation about what works and doesn't work, go back to, if you will, please, to the social studies performance. You make the statement that students, and I emphasize, continue to lack fundamental skills. And you also point out that, I suppose, as a result of the domino effect, that's why secondary scores are as they are. Now, what are we doing, or what can we do that we are not doing to eliminate this point that we continue to lag in terms of those fundamental skills?
Very good question, Mr. Fuller. We are trying to reinforce social studies at the elementary level so that we can build a better foundation for social studies. We know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done with our math and reading, but we cannot forget about science and social studies at our elementary levels. So right now we are coordinating reading through social studies through the content areas, but we definitely need to enhance that and reinforce that so we can create a better foundation for our kiddos.
Are you suggesting that there is a collaboration between the elementary teachers and the secondary teachers?
We've got to do a better job of finding that quality time for social studies to coordinate with our upper level teachers. That has not been in place. We are trying to coordinate and reinforce a foundation to make sure social studies is taught at the elementary level and not brushed aside and concentrate too much time. You can never concentrate too much time on reading and math, but we've got to make sure that all campuses understand that social studies has to be taught, should be taught, and that's coordinated through reading through the content areas of the other content areas.
So we can look for equal time relative to the teaching of social studies like we are doing with reading and math.
I don't know if you will ever, or if we will ever get to the point of, equal amount of time. We just need to make sure that all elementary schools are teaching all content areas. For example, we've got 7 schools going through the turnaround process, and we want to give them flexibility on how they're utilizing that time allotment for the content areas. Now, the scope of work that we've shared with them is that you must teach all content areas, but we're going to give you the flexibility on your time allotments based on what your campus needs assessment tells you. But we've got to make sure that social studies is taught every day at the elementary school.
hopefully, we hope that flexibility won't result in a de-emphasis
No,
of the teaching of
correct.
social studies.
Correct.
Given the climate that we have in our world, it seems to me that social studies should go up the list to at least number 2.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
On the 3rd page, under closing the achievement gap, that first paragraph, are those figures based on the 284 students that are referenced on the next page?
Great question. No, those are based on the 49 students that are currently being mentored.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, district report, item 4C, the financials that begin on page 22 of our packet, and the list of bills begin on page 29. Are there any questions about either of those two items? All right, if not, we'll go to our consent agenda. Item number 5A, minutes of our regular board meeting on March 21st, 2016. Minutes of our town hall meeting of April 4, 2016, because at least four of us attended that meeting. Item 5C, budget amendments and transfers, and 5D, board gifts. Do any of those items need to be pulled for any reason? All right, hearing no response, then we will have them deemed approved by consent. Now we turn to our action item, 6A, discussion and possible approval of the magnet school plan.
Board, my goal is to bring this, to finalize the recommendation for our magnet school plan. We've been working hard. I think you made a really good decision last month. Our 3 building principals did a really good job presenting this to you, introducing the plan to you. You asked several questions, parents asked several questions, staff had asked several questions. We got a lot of feedback on this. In your, on my Friday note was the narrative that was created for you, because some of your questions were, you know, how did we come to this? Where did we come from? So that was the narrative on this. Let me take you through a very short PowerPoint and just kind of tell you where we are, and this is for the recommendation on this. Let me say this first, because there's a lot of us who are parents in this room, and it is not the goal of this school district to make anything more difficult on parents as they deal with taking their kids to school, taking them home from school, daycare, anything like that. We're not in the business to make things more difficult, but this is truly about how we're supporting our teachers on these 3 campuses. That is truly the focal point. We did not start this conversation by saying, okay, what kind of plan can we come up with that would have parents having to rethink their entire role on how they again bring kids to school and how they get them away from school. Our main focus was, how do we put the best programs in place both during the school day and through our after-school program to put our teachers in the very best places to serve our children as they do every day. So our rationale for this is to truly put our teachers in collaborative opportunities. This plan, if approved, will allow teachers to attend district and regional professional development throughout the school year. And team, when I was thinking about this weekend and getting ready for the meeting this weekend, I liken it to what we did with Carver. You know, we looked at Carver, and we were when I first came into the district, Carver was a pull-out program. We were having kids in different kinds of instructions, 2 to 3 out of the 5 days. we can't take for granted the kind of campus and the campuses we're dealing with. We have to make sure that the campuses are set up in a way to best serve the children. And for our standpoint, and we just talked about the service that the central office provides, I don't think we've done a great job supporting our staff, especially our classroom teachers, because we can't assume that our teachers are getting the very best professional development as we have. In fact, they're not getting the best opportunities the way we just have everything organized right there. So that's the crux of this recommendation. We're going to allow our teachers on our 3 magnet schools to be able to attend district and regional professional development throughout the school year. We're going to allow for additional collaboration on campus with our teachers, giving them time, and it's all a matter of time, to collaborate with each other on campuses. And it allows for more on-campus, co-campus planning for grade levels that are departmentalized. In achieving this, we feel that we are really going to make an impact on the learning and making sure that it's going to be in a very positive manner for our kids. So, you asked us to clean up some things from the plan from last month, and we've done so, and I like what we've done. Here are the commonalities of what's going to happen across the 3 elementary schools that we're talking about: Bowie, Pease, and Washington. So what these campuses will have in common: we will all be on the same extended instructional day, 8 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. Those will be consistent throughout those 3 schools. We will have a minimum of 45 minutes instruction, daily instruction dedicated to magnet school theme. I told you one of the most important things that I saw from this is every child, not just the children who are going to be signing up for after-school programs, but every child in the 3 campuses will have at least 45 minutes direct instruction on the magnet school theme. So every kid will be able to get that immersive. I can't talk. To be able to be immersed in the magnet school themes every day during instruction. And then we will have a 1-hour after-school program for all 3 campuses. For our operational issues, we're going to ask parents to pick up our kids who do sign up for our after-school programs. The differences on the campuses, if you'll look at those 3, the differences will be, and we did think it is important for our staff and our principals to be able to create their own programs. At Peace in Washington, we will have the after-school program available for 4th grade through 6th grade kids to extend learning on those magnet school themes. For Peace, core subject and special area teachers will be in the after-school program. At Peace, because of our demographics at Peace, we're going to be able to offer this both mono and bilingual after-school students. And then on Wednesdays at Peace, we're going to dismiss school at their regular dismissal time, and we're going to have professional development every Wednesday at Peace. So there will be no after-school program every Wednesday that we will communicate to our parents. At Bowie, again, 4th through 6th grade, special area teachers will be used only, the special area teachers only for the after-school program to really hone in on our fine arts skills. And then the after-school program will be every day. We will not alter from that. And then Washington, Math Science, K6. It was important for our Peace and Bowie kids, with the technology aspects, for the fine art aspects, if we bring a kid up and really get them going through the at least 45 minutes of instruction from K through 3 and really get them interested in fine arts or technology, and then starting their 4th grade year to really extend that learning to those kids who are mature enough to do so, to really extend that learning through the after-school program. At Washington, we know that if we can immerse the kids immediately into math science concepts, as James was just talking about social studies, but getting the kids in early and starting, and so that's the reason why we want to keep the K6 format with Washington, because we really want to get them started early in those math and science and be able to offer it both in the school day and the extended day. Core subject area teachers and special area teachers will be used in the after-school program at Washington, and one day a month we're going to break. One Wednesday every month, we're going to take a break from the after-school program for PD purposes. And so that wraps everything around to give on each 3 individualized campuses and unique campus we feel that that is the after-school plan that will best meet the needs of the kids, because we will have better met the needs of our staff and especially our classroom teachers. And again, that professional development component, I can't tell you how important that is to be able to move forward and make sure our teachers have the right foundation to be able to do that. So, team, board, my recommendation is that you approve the after-school programs as described in the presentation for the beginning of, to be begun the 2016-17 school year.
Comments, questions?
I have one question. My memory is that at least one of the schools last time said they were going to limit the number of students that could participate in after-school. Are there any now? Are there any limitations, or anybody who signs up can participate?
All three schools will have limitations based on the availability of the skill set of the teachers we have.
Good, okay, thank you.
Well, certainly the feedback I got from a number of teachers is that they support this revision in our after-school program at the magnet schools. They very much want our support in their professional development and their ability to collaborate, to be better teachers in the classroom, and to, while still having a meaningful enrichment program in the magnet after-school program. So if there was any poll, it was 90% in favor of this, and all the feedback I got via email, phone call, and grocery store shopping the few times I went. But any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Davis, I received the same comments via email, at least, not the grocery store. But the question I had, just for clarification, Dr. Warren, if we're going to start, it's not K through 3 that are going to be impacted with after-school issues. If I'm reading this right, we're now going to have 4th through 6th that are going to have some after-school issues on Wednesdays that they don't have today.
Correct.
So and those parents are going to have the same kind of issues at least one day a week.
Well, that's true. And Mr. Isaacs, what we try to do, make sure, is our plan is not going to create any undue issue that any other parent has to deal with on any other of our campuses. You know, kids stay after school. The main point is we're going to take back minutes from what we're doing now and give them back to the teachers for true PD.
For collaboration.
Yes, sir.
I'm with you on that. I'm not in favor of the daycare issue. I think I said that before. But my understanding from the last meeting was that it was K through 3, but now I'm seeing that there's going to be some impact on 4 through 6 as well. I like it. It's a good program. I just wanted that clarification.
Yes, sir.
Questions or comments?
I'm in favor of this design for one simple reason. The academic performance at our magnets is going to be much better. That's what I anticipate. Because that's what they were designed for, and hopefully the performance, the scores. Matter of fact, we had a star, what was that, those awards that we got the last time? Early college, high school, and gift GT programs received significant academic recognition. I think our 3 magnets should have been in that group as well. So I look forward to seeing those 3 magnets being recognized as academically exceptional.
Any other questions or comments?
I move approval.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Bowie, professional development. Is there professional development built in? Yes. If I'm reading correctly?
Because Bowie's a little bit different because they're going to utilize their fine arts teachers for the after-school program. That leaves the availability of Bowie, the ability to work with their core classroom teachers for professional development.
Is the program regarding Bowie diminish the ability for teachers, with specified teachers, to have adequate professional development? Or does this take care of the needs?
It takes care of their needs because Bowie utilizes their fine arts teachers as opposed to their core teachers. So Bowie will always have access
it seems to me that math and science at Washington with one Wednesday per month, is that enough professional development compared to communication technology Ps, which is every Wednesday? So why the difference? Because those seem to be areas that, well, math and science seems to be an area that more than one Wednesday per month is going to be good for professional development. So why do we have the
The reason you see the difference in every Wednesday for Ps compared to the other campuses, and it's in the narrative as well. Ps is the only magnet school that's going through the professional learning community's implementation. We have 18 schools going through the PLC implementation this year. They need more time to properly implement professional learning communities. Bowie and Washington are not in that 18, and they are not on course for phase 2. We do have them on the list for phase 3 in 17-18. So that's why they need a little bit more time every Wednesday for professional development with their teachers.
You believe that this is adequate for professional development specifically to the type of campus it is?
Yes. Yes.
All right, any other questions before I recognize Ms. Nicholson's motion? Motion by Ms. Nicholson. Second by Mr. Robnett. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Action item 6B, discussion and possible approval of volunteers in public schools resolution.
Mr. Davis, if you'll read the resolution into the minutes.
It's on page 76 of our board packet, and the resolution reads as follows. Whereas many dedicated people spend countless hours each day in service to teachers and school administration personnel, providing these educators with more time for each of our students. And whereas providing the future leaders of this great nation with the best possible education is the ultimate goal of the Volunteers in Public Schools program. And whereas by giving so freely of their time, knowledge, and resources, these volunteers do the tasks that are so time-consuming for our educators. And whereas we urge all citizens of Midland to continue to express their appreciation to the volunteers in public schools as often as they have opportunity each school year. Therefore, be it resolved that the trustees and administration of the Midland Independent School District, on behalf of themselves and all other citizens of this school district, do acknowledge with pride the impact of the ongoing contributions of the volunteers in public schools who are dedicated to the growth and achievement of the youth of the Midland community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the Volunteers in Public Schools Advisory Council, and that this resolution be placed in the minutes of the meeting of the Board of Trustees of Midland Independent School District. Witness our hands on this, the 11th day of April, 2016.
Team, I would further recognize the efforts. Jamie Owen. Jamie? Jamie continues to excel, gaining even more support for our schools, for our campuses, for our kids, for our staff. I proudly recommend that you approve this resolution.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hernandez, second by Mr. Isaacs. Any further discussion? And yes, thank you, Ms. Owen, for all that you do. And
Oh, look at it.
difference of opinion about that.
Contracts have already been let, Jamie. You're good.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. It's approved. Thank you very much. All right, action item 6C, discussion and possible approval of competitive sealed proposals, components 2 and 3 of the professional development request. The first of those begins on page 77 of our packet.
Team, as your executive summary states, we have 3 components we need you to approve. We have 2 of those 3 tonight. We will have the last. The first one, data collection and best practice strategies. We're not really satisfied yet with what we've got. Component 2, professional learning communities. We are asking you to approve the solution tree bid, and then for the third component. My computer will, the third component, which is online professional library for PD opportunities, we're asking you to approve school improvement. Those were the first place bids in each category. I would recommend approval.
All right. Motion by Mr. Hernandez. Second by Ms. Nicholson. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board.
Action item 6D, discussion and possible approval of competitive seal proposal for the fuel bid.
Team, page 79 are the bid quotes. We recommend that you approve Fuel Masters from Abilene, Texas. They were the #1 ranking bid. I would recommend for approval.
Clarification. These are wholesalers, right? Of fuel?
Yes.
So if we're using an out-of-town provider, are they trucking that in here? Do we have tanks that we hold that out at the transportation barn, I presume?
We have one at the transportation department. We have one at James's crew on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that out-of-town capability is not a problem? Okay.
Yeah. The closest one for us was Big Spring. Abilene was the second closest, and we definitely don't want them to come from Cincinnati. So.
And there were no Midland bidders.
It may come from, it may say from Cincinnati, they've got a fuel roster.
Yep.
Motion by Mr. Isaac, second by Mr. Robnett. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Action item 6E, discussion and possible approval of competitive seal proposal on our football game broadcasting. The information on this item begins on page 80 in our board packet.
Team, as I told you, this was the first time that we actually went out for bid on this because we've only had one provider for such a long time. We did have another who expressed interest. We went through the bid process. David and his crew did a really good job assessing both of the bids, and the 2 organizations did. We still want to go with ICA, who have been carrying our games. We feel that the proposal was very good. We'll definitely give our kids and our teams really good exposure. So my recommendation is we stay with ICA.
There wasn't an attachment that had any numbers here. So is there some compensation that comes to the district for that contract?
There was no set compensation, but there were some value for services provided that were included.
I saw the quotations there, but yes. What does that mean?
That just means the advertising opportunities that are available, also airtime that's available to the school district with respect to authorizing advertising programs for Midland ISD. Well, so the value that was set.
Okay, that's the first time I'm hearing that. As a school district, we don't need any advertising.
Well,
but if we want to advertise individual programs,
yes.
Like
promotional activities.
Volunteers, there
right.
we go,
yes.
Education Foundation, those kind of things. So do we get to script them?
Yes.
And,
that's exactly right. And that's the value of services that were included in this proposal. And when I said advertising, it's promotional time that's afforded to the school district as a result of entering into this contract.
How many minutes would we be allotted during a particular game time?
I don't have it on hand. I can get you that information, though.
I mean, I would think since it's our games that we would get plenty of airtime there, but okay, I'd be interested to see how that gets quantified, what value of services mean.
I can get you that information.
Any other questions?
Move for approval and a good marketing ad program.
Motion by Mr. Isaac, second by Mr. Hernandez. Any other questions?
That's a good outlet if we can use it right.
I agree. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous, thank you. Action item 6F, discussion and possible approval of elementary attendance boundary adjustments for Yarborough, Scarborough, and Travis Elementary. The information on those attendance boundaries begins on page 81 of our packet.
Team, on your, you can see there on the TV screen or in your packet, we have continued. Mr. Riggin and Jay Edwards from PSC did a great job presenting this to you and introducing this to you last meeting. They have continued to refine. Really, what we have come up with, we are going to ask the board tonight, just as our mom who spoke during open forum, Ms. Spivey, we're going to make very minimal, and I think this is a tribute to the work we did getting ready for this change, again, after 22 years. We're going to ask you to make two very minimum changes to current boundaries that we think are going to fix this program. We're in the process of administratively getting everything else together, the things that we're going to do that we think we can do administratively rather than you guys having to, again, come back and change any boundary zones, because that really does, that kind of upsets the apple cart for a lot of families and everything like that. And I think with these changes that we're going to propose, that we have things set now for hopefully a long period of time, again, unless something just unforeseen happens and we get growth exponentially, again, even more so than we've had in the past. So the proposed boundary revisions between Scarborough, Yarborough, and Travis, and if you look on the map, if you look at this area between Scarborough and Yarborough, that is the only change we're asking you to make between those two schools. If you look at how that green comes into, you like those effects? So that's what we changed it to this last year, and that's the only change we are recommending between Scarborough and Yarborough, which is the Airline Park subdivision, which is 155 kids. Okay? And then if you look between Travis and Scarborough, we're asking for one part of the Scarborough. Do you see the block? And this is south of the interstate. There's a block of families right there that's going to be about 100 kids, James? 100 students that will be moved from Scarborough to Travis. And what the results will be, looking at every data point that we have, and again, as Ms. Spivey asked a great question, are we truly utilizing the buildings, and we've got enough capacity to truly get that? We are looking at a really good plan to utilize these buildings for the future. That's about as good as we can do with the numbers that we have. We're going to be making some program changes that I will inform you about administratively. We talked about the secondary plan that we're going to do, and I told you that would be administratively between Goddard and SJ. But of everything that we did, everything we asked you to do, the numbers were really right on, except for those two areas. We think and I can't say enough about PSC either. They did a great job, but there was a lot of planning. You listened to a lot of parents. You made changes on the original plans when we had the town hall meetings. So having to do this, I think, is a really good testament to all the work we did last spring. So I would recommend approval for those two changes from Yarborough, Scarborough, and Travis.
Motion by Mr. Isaacs, second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions? Any additional questions from last time? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board. James, please tell all the crew thank you, everybody who did the work.
All right, action item 6G, discussion and possible approval of competitive sealed proposal regarding secondary fine arts stage lighting upgrades. The information begins on page 89 in our packet.
Board, I do not say this to you very often, but this is not going to cost you any money to do this. Jamie Owen and her crew and Deb Shaw with our fine arts department, they've done a really good job getting the financial backing. You guys know the condition of our secondary schools. We have a lot of folks who are just immersed in our fine arts programs and would like to make improvements to these. Mr. Riggin has been involved from the very beginning. These are very compatible with what we have now, and will really take our facilities, our fine art facilities, to the next level. So we're very appreciative of everyone who has donated to this. Jamie, thank you very much. So I would recommend that you approve the bid from BATS Audio, Video, and Lighting, and that will be for a grand total of $379,123.70. They raised that money. That is correct. Jamie?
Yes, 300,000 already. I still need 79,000. So anything more I can find.
So moved.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Will we get a list of all those people or whoever?
Yep.
Good.
Motion by Mr. Isaac, second by Ms. Nicholson. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous, thank you. Action item 6H, discussion and possible approval of competitive sealed proposal for the Midland High School roofing. This information begins on page 91.
And board, this will cost you some money to do, but we need to do it anyway. I'm very proud also to recommend a local company. James and David went through the process of getting the bids for the Midland High School roofing. You can see where we're having issues on there. We would like to recommend Leidick Hooks Roofing Company from right here in Midland, Texas, to do the work.
Motion by Mr. Isaacs, second by Mr. Robnett. Any questions or comments?
Timeline?
They'll begin this summer and expected completion before the start of school.
Even better.
All right.
So you're going to be transferring from some... You didn't tell me that.
Go ahead and vote.
It just says budget transfer, budget amendment. It didn't say fund balance, so it's all right.
All right, we do have a motion. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous, thank you. All right, action item 6I, discussion and possible approval of competitive sealed proposal, chain link fencing for Midland freshman and Lee freshman campuses.
Team, we're doing this as a safety issue. You know, we've had a couple of issues throughout the years, some issues throughout the years with folks, and if you can visualize both freshman centers, they're one of our few schools that don't have fencing around our perimeter, and we've had issues with folks getting onto our campuses, either walking through or actually causing some issues. We've had a couple of three just this year, and so we've been talking to the administration of both both freshman centers, the PTAs of both freshman centers, and we really need to put up this fencing. James has got a plan, and again, we're going to recommend a local company. FenceCo is going to do this for us. It'll be an 8-foot fence around the perimeter of our buildings, and we think that'll really lead to a better able to control those both those campuses. So I would recommend approval.
Is that on the south end of Lee Freshman?
That would be on the south, yeah, all the way from building, all the way around the fields, James, all the way to what would be the east side of the building, all the way around, and then the same thing for Midland freshmen would be the east side.
Drive all the way to the south side.
Right.
Similar to what we did several years ago, James, over at Rusk. except
Yeah,
on a bigger scale.
We have a partial on the east side.
Do we have a
Elite
what?
freshman. We have chain link along that side. That's gonna be attached.
The existing, that
existing
low
fence?
one?
That low fence will be coming out, and we'll be putting in a 8-foot chain link fence.
You're gonna take that out?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Which the dads won't like that. That's where we dads like to lean against to give advice to the coaches who are coaching our children, but
We still have gates for,
Okay.
control gates, either keep dads out.
Ryder, I would support what we're doing here, but just as a word of caution, because of what I know I went through personally with several parents, is I would communicate with the parents at both of these schools well in advance of doing this, because you go up with an 8-foot chain link all the way around, you're changing the visual landscape of that whole neighborhood.
Right.
And it's stark, and this is a much grander scale than what we did when we did all the soccer field and that fencing around Rusk Elementary several years ago. I got lots of phone calls, and I got chased down at the grocery store.
We will communicate that. But again, a lot of this was parent initiated. They came to us.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Just, I would make sure there's some communication with the parents at both
Yes, sir.
schools.
Yeah.
Or at least around the neighborhood there.
Can do.
This is an action item. Motion by Mr. Isaacs. Second by Mr. Hernandez. This does require a budget amendment. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, action item 6J, discussion and possible approval of naming the MS at Midland S High School. Right?
Senior.
Midland Senior High School. Oh, okay. Midland Senior High School Gill Complex Varsity Softball Field, the James R. Buddy Martin Memorial Field. The information about this item begins on page 95 of our packet.
Mr. Riggin.
Before I begin this presentation, could I ask Coach Vines and the Martin family to please come in? While the Martin family is coming down, I do want to express it's my honor today to be able to bring this item to you as a maintenance and auxiliary service person for this district. It's an honor for me to be here at the podium today and share this with you. Earlier in the year, Coach Vines and her Midland High School softball team and members of her boosters had asked that we rename this field, or name this field, the field after Buddy Martin. Buddy Martin was a veteran of MISD grounds maintenance department for over 23 years before he retired in 2013. Buddy worked for the grounds department on multiple fields throughout our district. In the last 10 years of his service, he served at the Gill Complex, serving the softball fields and the soccer fields at Midland High Gill Complex. Buddy maintained these fields to the highest quality level for the safety of the athletes and for the condition and for student safety. Buddy was very dedicated in his service to the district and to the students and to the coaches with the programs at Gill Complex. But his dedication was exceeded by his loyalty to the coaches and the athletes that play at these facilities. It's sadly that Buddy passed on July 18th, 2015. In accordance with regulations CA facilities and schools naming and symbols, Committee of 7 was convened to discuss this request from the boosters and from the coaches. And as a result of that committee, it is the recommendation of that committee that the existing Midland Senior High School varsity softball field at the Gill Complex be named the James R. Buddy Martin Memorial Field. I've asked Coach Fines to come forth. This is very formal. Trying to talk about Buddy in a paragraph is kind of difficult. And I've asked Coach Fines to tell us a little bit more about Buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you tonight about naming our varsity softball field James R. Buddy Martin Memorial Field. I want to begin by introducing some of the members of the Martin family. Tonight we have Heather and Blaine Davis. That's Buddy's daughter and son-in-law, as well as his granddaughter Shelby Cruz and his great-granddaughter, the one you heard talking to you back there, and his granddaughter Hannah, and as well as his wife Nancy Martin. We also have a few people here tonight that like to show their support for Buddy's family. We were planning on having the whole team here, but we have a big game against Permian tomorrow, so we decided to take a few extra ground balls with my assistant. So I'm the head softball coach at Midland High. I'm also a personal friend of the Martin family. Buddy worked for MISD for over 20 years. Before his retirement, he spent many of those years working on the soccer and softball fields at the Gill Complex, also affectionately known as the Boneyard. Buddy became a welcome fixture at the softball fields over the years. His daughter and his granddaughters are graduates of Midland High. Buddy was a huge supporter of softball in our area. He also had a granddaughter, Taylor, that played softball for Midland High School and graduated from Midland High and went on to play collegiate softball. Buddy was a huge supporter of softball in our area and especially loved watching his granddaughter play at Midland High. Many of our players would seek Buddy out each day to say hello and to get a hug from him. Buddy was happy to give a hug and a word of encouragement when needed. He wanted to help and support our players in any way he could. Buddy meant so much to the girls, and they knew that he was there to support them regardless of the situation. One example of his kindness was when we had a player come through the gate. She was visibly upset. Buddy was the one that got to her first, talked to her, found out what was wrong. She had received a speeding ticket, was unable to pay that ticket, was afraid she was going to have to quit softball in order to get a job to be able to pay for it. And so Buddy very quietly took care of the fine for that young lady. That's just a small example of the kindness that he showed to our kids on a daily basis. Buddy would always stay and watch our games, so our kids kind of expected to see him at the fence sitting in his gator during his times as our groundskeeper at the Boneyard. He was missed immensely after he was injured working at the Boneyard. Buddy had cracked a rib, which caused a puncturing of his lung while working at the Boneyard one day, and actually drove himself to the hospital. And then later we found out what had happened to him. But during his recovery, he was still coming to watch our softball games. Once he retired, we assumed that we wouldn't really get to see him much anymore. But even after his retirement, he was still showing up at the softball games, and our kids loved seeing him in the stands. He always had a kind word to say to our players and was always encouraging of them. When we would arrive and the kids saw them, there were lots of smiles, lots of waving, and running to hug from our players. Buddy had many hardships and trials in his life, but those led on a path that softened his heart and gave him an appreciation for family and friends. Buddy normally called his family to see how the day was going and to tell them that he loved them. When parting after a visit with Buddy, there was always a kiss, a hug, and an I love you. And you could count on those three things from him. He rarely parted without saying the words, I love you. And he had a tendency
Buddy, he rarely parted ways with you without saying the words, "I love you." I believe that this was a direct result of all who had everything that he had overcome in his life, and a willingness to make sure each person in his life knew he cared and loved them. It had a way of making one feel special. Buddy was loved by those of us working and playing at the boneyard. We would like to honor him and show that we are all thankful for his kindness and the care he showed us over the many years by naming our varsity softball field the James R. Buddy Martin Memorial Field. We respectfully ask the board to approve our motion and allow us to honor the man who loved and cared so much for our coach and our players.
Very, very good. Board, first of all, I appreciate James's work on this. James got the committee organized and did the committee work. Coach Vines made this happen. She was behind this all through the entire process, do that. Martin family, we just appreciate you sharing him with us as long as you did, and we really do that. Board, I very proudly recommend to you that we name our softball field the James R. Buddy Martin Memorial Field, and we'll be very proud to do so.
Motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Isaacs. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimously approved. Thank you, Martin family. Thank you all for coming. Next item, discussion and possible approval of personnel appointments. The recommendations begin on page 96 of our packet.
I would recommend approval subject to assignment.
Is Isaac sure she wants to retire?
We've asked that several times, Mr. Bishop, and she keeps saying yes.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask one final.
As long as Mr. Isaacs continues to work, her vote is for her to be home.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, this is an action item. Motion by Mr. Hernandez. Second by Mrs. Nicholson. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, unfortunately, we still have action item 6L, discussion and possible findings regarding teacher contract abandonment. 1, good cause did not exist for resignation. And 2, complaint and request for sanction to TEA. We'll take these up separately. The first one concerns K. Tarango.
Recommend approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fuller. Second by Mr. Isaacs. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. The second one concerns J. Buys.
Recommend approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fuller. Second by Mr. Hernandez. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, it is now 7:09 p.m. and we will go into executive session to discuss personnel issues pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code.
Team, you're dismissed. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Appreciate everyone.